Discover the incredible hidden beauty of the bearded princess who transformed 100 hearts forever. In the heart of a small Midwestern town, there lived a woman known far and wide as the bearded princess. Rosie was 28 and wore her thick, wild facial hair like a crown. Despite the stares and cruel taunts from some townsfolk who saw her as an oddity rather than a person, her spirit remained unbroken. In the local bakery, a cherished establishment filled with sweet aromas and laughter, Rosie poured her heart into every bread and pastry, creating a sugary sanctuary where love was the secret ingredient. As children crowded around the counter, their fingers sticky with frosting, Rosie laughed and wiped the flour from her face. Just a pinch more love, kids, she'd say, mirroring the wisdom her grandfather had shared. Memories swirled around her like the scent of fresh-baked cinnamon rolls. Moments spent baking by his side filled with warmth and laughter shaped her life. But beneath her bright smile, despair began to take root. The bakery, once alive with the bustling of customers, faced the looming shadow of foreclosure. The body of the town struggled beneath the weight of economic turbulence, and Rosie felt the responsibility of community pressing down on her. She didn't just make bread. She was the glue that held together families fracturing under financial strain. Under the flickering fluorescent lights of her little bakery, she offered free meals to those in need, knowing well that a warm meal could spark hope. Her heart ached with compassion, but inside, she questioned her worth. Fear wrapped around her memory of childhood laughter and turned it into a heavy shroud. Would they still come to her? Would they see her for who she was instead of the hair that adorned her face, a sign of fragile beauty? In a burst of determination, Rosie hatched a plan. A baking competition open to everyone in town. Let us rise together, she declared to no one in particular within the empty bakery walls. She imagined neighbors gathering, sharing secrets and smiles, learning to see beyond appearances. But with the anticipation came anxiety. What if they didn't come? What if her past haunted her dreams of community? The day of the competition loomed closer, and Rosie's heart raced with both hope and trepidation. Her imagination danced with visions of laughter and connection, but the whispers of doubt still lingered, threatening to undermine everything she had built. On the morning of the event, she stood behind her counter, her throat tight, ready to embrace either judgment or acceptance. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The competition was a whirlwind of flour, frosting, and emotions. As contestants showcased their creations, Rosie stood at the center, vulnerable yet resolute. Her heart pounded loudly. Participants had begun drawing her admired and sometimes mocked presence into their rippling community circle. Could this blending of hopes and dreams help bridge the chasm that divided them? But just as she summoned her courage to face the crowd, a sudden crisis struck. A gas leak threatened the safety of the bakery, sending chaos into the day she had labored to create. As fear rippled through the anxious crowd, would Rosie have the strength to rise above the challenges, both personal and communal? Would she be a beacon in the storm, leading them towards true acceptance? The tension in the bakery soared to an unbearable level as the sharp smell of gas enveloped Rosie and the crowd. Panic replaced the festive atmosphere that had just begun to take hold. "Everyone, please get out," Rosie shouted, her voice shaking but laced with urgency. People began scrambling for the exits, their faces etched with fear and confusion. Rosie felt a surge of adrenaline. This wasn't just about her competition anymore. This was about keeping everyone safe. She took a deep breath, steeling herself against the rising panic inside her. As she ushered the last of the frightened patrons through the back door, she cast a desperate glance around the bakery, wishing she could hold onto the spirit of community she had worked so hard to bring forth. The oven sat like a sleeping giant, the bread inside still baking, unaware of the chaos around it. The weight of her dreams pressed down on her chest, but she couldn't allow fear to win. "Please," Rosie called to the remaining contestants, who hesitated near their tables. "We need to go. Grab your baked goods as you leave." Some of them were reluctant, hugging their creations tightly. It didn't matter how beautiful the cakes were, or how wonderful the bread smelled. Their safety came first. Suddenly, a familiar voice broke through the tension. "Rosie, what's happening?" It was Liam, a childhood friend who had always stood by her side despite the town's whispers. His presence filled her with warmth, a comforting reminder of the past where laughter shared bathed everything with light. "There's a gas leak. We need to get everyone out now," Rosie replied, her voice steadier than she felt. Liam nodded, his expression sharp with determination. He moved toward the nearest table, helping those still paralyzed by fear to gather their baked goods. Together, they formed a human chain, moving people towards safety, leaving behind a cacophony of confusion in their wake. Once the last person was outside, Rosie turned and dashed back into the bakery. It wasn't just about saving her bakery. It was about saving her heart, her home. She grabbed a tray of muffins, her grandfather's recipe, full of love and warmth, and raced back outside. As she emerged, the fresh air hit her like a wave, and she collapsed on the sidewalk, breathless. The gathered crowd stood at a distance, eyes wide, whispering to each other. Rosie's heart clenched tightly as she searched their faces. But then she realized something extraordinary. Rather than judgment, she saw concern. Friends turned to each other, offering comfort, finding strength in their shared experience. "There's something beautiful in all of this," Liam said, sitting beside her. He handed her a muffin from the tray, his eyes warm. "We faced a crisis together. Maybe that's the real magic of this day." Rosie smiled through the fear that had momentarily overtaken her heart. They hadn't just baked together. They stood shoulder to shoulder in a moment of vulnerability. A spark ignited in her chest. Perhaps the competition wasn't the only way to bring them together. As sirens wailed in the distance and emergency crews started arriving, Rosie felt hope settling over her like a gentle blanket. But just then, one of the contestants, Claire, a seemingly timid girl, approached, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "What do we do now, Rosie?" she asked, her voice small. Rosie's mind was racing with possibilities. She had birthed a small flicker of connection. But could she fan the flames of something much bigger? Could this moment of chaos transform the town into a community? The crowd stirred around them, waiting for her response. All eyes were on the bearded princess who had courageously faced the storm. And as Rosie looked at the faces before her, each full of hope, she could feel the welcoming warmth and vulnerability of the moment. What would she say to rally them now? What could she do to ensure that this day wouldn't just be a fleeting moment? The answer simmered just beneath her surface, ready to explode. And in that silence, one question began to hum in her heart. Could a small-town bakery become a lifeline for community healing? Rosie's heart raced as the crowd awaited her response. She could see the uncertainty in their eyes, a shared vulnerability that hung in the air like the scent of fresh bread. It was a moment frozen in time, and she felt the weight of their hopes resting on her shoulders. Taking a deep breath, she stood up, her knees shaky but her resolve firm. "I know this is terrifying," she began, her voice stronger than she felt. "Today was meant to celebrate our love for baking. But what we really just experienced, it showed us something deeper. We are a community, and today reminded us that we need each other." A murmur rippled through the group. Head nods and murmurs of agreement sparked against the backdrop of the still smoldering bakery. Rosie felt their energy fuel her confidence. "I want to propose something. Instead of letting this moment tear us apart, let us come together. Let us turn this chaos into a new beginning. What if we organized a community bake-off together? Not just for competition, but to raise money for those in need, to support each other, and to truly celebrate what we've created together." Claire wiped her tears and blinked, her eyes widening as hope flickered into life. "You mean, it's not just about the baking? It's about helping everyone?" "Exactly," Rosie answered passionately, her words flowing easily now. Baking has always been about love and sharing. What if we used that love to bring our town back together? Let us start from here, right now. The crowd buzzed with whispers, shadows of fear beginning to lift. Liam stood and clapped, his enthusiasm infectious. I'm in. I'll help you organize it. One by one, others rose to their feet, joining in. Me too. I want to help. Let us do this. Rosie felt a thrill rush through her. This was not just about her bakery or the dreams she had for success. It was a wave of transformation, palpable and powerful, sweeping away the remnants of panic from just moments ago. As plans began to unfold, a bake-off date set, themes discussed, and roles assigned, the bakery's chaos faded into the background. Rosie looked around, her heart swelling as she watched fear transform into excitement, vulnerability into unity. In the midst of this terrifying day, they found a purpose that was larger than themselves. Just then, Claire approached her, a tentative smile breaking through her previously troubled expression. Thank you, Rosie. I didn't think I could handle today, but you made me see. We're stronger together, right? Yes. Rosie replied, her voice filled with conviction. Together we can weather any storm. And I promise we'll make this the best bake-off ever. The crowd cheered, their enthusiasm growing louder, creating an energy that buzzed like fireworks. Rosie felt like she was glowing, the possibilities ahead stretching out in front of her like an open road. But even amidst the joy of their newfound unity, Rosie felt a twinge of something still lurking. The bakery restoration, the competition, the healing, all of it demanded more than just baking skills. A shared vulnerability had opened doors. But how would they handle the hardships ahead? As the paramedics began their assessment of the bakery, Rosie caught a glimpse of the future uncertainty still shadowing their path. And that gnawing question echoed louder in her mind. Would their communal strength be enough to weather the challenges on the horizon? The crowd's laughter filled the air. But somewhere deep within, Rosie sensed that their journey had only just begun, fraught with unexpected turns. And in that bustling excitement, one thought began to pulse in her heart. How far could they truly take this community spirit? Would they truly emerge stronger, or were there more storms yet to come? The days passed quickly, each moment filled with an energy Rosie hadn't felt in a long time. Excitement mixed with trepidation as the community bake-off day approached. The bakery still showed signs of damage, patches of soot clinging to the walls and reminders of what had happened. Yet, laughter echoed through the space as neighbors flocked together to support her. They painted, cleaned, and prepared, all with the spirit of hope high above their heads. Amidst the chaos of planning, Claire stepped up with renewed vigor. I can organize the decorations, she exclaimed one afternoon, a bundle of colorful paper in her hands. The way her eyes sparkled brought a smile to Rosie's face. Perfect. That'll set a festive mood, Rosie replied, her heart feeling lighter. It was moments like these where she realized their shared effort was rebuilding more than just a bakery. It was rebuilding connections that had faded. Liam and others gathered around a large table, brainstorming themes for the bake-off. Let us make it unique, Liam suggested, his hands tapping on the tabletop enthusiastically. How about a tribute to our town? Each item can have a story behind it. Rosie nodded along, envisioning pies representing the park where children played, or cakes nodding to the old library. As she listened, an unexpected warmth seeped through her. They were transforming pain into something so beautiful, weaving together the fabric of their shared history and future. Yet, in the quiet corners of her mind, doubt persisted. What if they failed? What if excitement turned to disappointment? Rosie pushed her fears down, focusing instead on the faces of her friends. Each smile she encountered scrapped away the worry, bit by bit. The night before the bake-off, the buzz was palpable. Rosie barely slept, her mind racing with thoughts of all they had done and still needed to accomplish. She tucked herself under the covers, heart racing, as images of cupcakes and frosting danced behind her eyelids. And then, in the midst of the whirlwind, another thought struck her like lightning. What if a new baker emerged through this chaos? Someone who would tap into their talent, and become the town's unexpected culinary star? When dawn broke, Rosie hurriedly prepared her special chocolate chip cookies, the recipe passed down from her grandmother. The aroma filled her small kitchen, wrapping her in the warmth of nostalgia. It was a reminder that they were all part of something bigger, carrying memories forward while creating new ones. When she arrived at the park where the bake-off was set, the sight was breathtaking. Tables lined with colorful cloths, glittering fairy lights strung above, laughter, children playing, everything whispered promise. But as she stepped closer, the thrill of anticipation was disrupted by a familiar face lurking on the outskirts. Maggie, someone who had distanced herself from the community after life's hardships. Rosie's heart sank. Would Maggie open up? Or was she still trapped in her own turmoil? Just then a voice interrupted her thoughts. Rosie. It was Claire, enthusiasm radiating off her. We're ready. Are you? Rosie swallowed hard, taking note of her surroundings. Would they really pull this off? Were they, after everything, prepared to come out the other side stronger? As the sun climbed higher in the sky, Rosie realized it wasn't just the bake-off that mattered, but the connections they were forging and the resilience they were cultivating. But would it be enough to bring back someone like Maggie? With that lingering question, she clenched the edges of the table. Let us do this, she shouted, the echo filling the park. But within her, the doubt remained. What if this was only the beginning of a much larger fight? The moment Rosie shouted, the air crackled with a mix of anxiety and hope. Claire's bright smile and the buzz of people setting up stalls wrapped around her like a warm blanket. But just beyond that warmth, Rosie could still see Maggie standing alone, her arms crossed, watching from a distance. A jolt of worry ran through her. Would Maggie engage? Or would she retreat once more into her isolation? Let us gather, everyone, Claire called, her voice breaking through Rosie's thoughts. The call was met with cheers, and faces turned excitedly toward Rosie. She knew she needed to lead, but as she glanced back at Maggie, uncertainty tugged at her heart. Steeling herself, Rosie approached the edge of the gathering. Everyone, thank you for coming today. We've all worked so hard, and I'm proud of what we're about to do together. But let us not just fill our bellies. Let us fill our hearts, too. The crowd applauded, and Rosie felt the energy lift, but her eyes drifted back to Maggie again. She took a deep breath, deciding enough was enough. Turning to Claire, she whispered, "Could you keep an eye on things here? I want to talk to Maggie." Claire nodded, her brows furrowing in understanding. Rosie pushed through the throng of people, each step heavy with emotion. When she reached Maggie, she found herself tongue-tied, like a little girl caught between fear and hope. "Maggie?" Rosie ventured, her voice soft as she stepped closer. Maggie looked up, surprise flickering across her face. "Rose," she said quietly, as if the years of distance had woven 1,000 hesitations into a single name. Rosie paused, searching for the right words. I've missed you. We've all missed you. Today could really use your magic. You're baking well, it's always been something special." Maggie shrugged, her gaze drifting to the ground. "I don't know, Rosie. It's just, things have been tough. Feels easier to stay away." Rosie's heart broke a little. "But you're part of this community. We're all facing tough times together. This bake-off isn't just about food. It's about coming together. Maybe the best way to heal is to share what we love." Maggie looked at Rosie, eyes shimmering. "What if I let you down? What if I'm not as good as you remember? Then we'll figure it out together," Rosie promised, her voice steady. "No judgment, just support. Let us create something beautiful, even if it's just one cookie at a time." The vulnerability in Maggie's expression began to shift. There was a flicker of hope in her eyes, and for a moment, Rosie held her breath, wishing for courage to spill over. "Okay," Maggie finally murmured, the fight in her hesitation melting. "I might have a few things I can whip up." Beaming, Rosie practically floated back toward the gathering, where the music and chatter wrapped around her like a cozy hug. She felt a rush of warmth, not just for Maggie but for the town that had stood by her, shaking off the shadows of loneliness. As the bake-off began, Rosie couldn't shake the feeling that everything was about to change. The energy was infectious. People dived into the baking, laughter bubbling like the cakes rising in their pans. Suddenly, the sound of clanging could be heard near the dessert table, followed by a commotion. Rosie darted toward the noise, heart pounding. Had something gone wrong? When she reached the table, she froze. A cascade of icing had tipped over, spilling onto the ground in a colorful mess. Laughter erupted around them, and Rosie felt her stomach churn with nervousness. Could this really be fixed? As the crowd settled down, she caught sight of Maggie at the edge, a small smile creeping on her face despite the chaos. Maybe this was just another test of resilience, and together they could laugh through it. But as Rosie smiled back, a thought nagged at her. Was this unexpected setback the catalyst for something greater? What if the real challenge lay not just in baking, but in healing wounds she hadn't yet recognized? With each passing moment, the question echoed in her heart. What if the real transformation was yet to come? She took a deep breath, eyes scanning the crowd. Rosie wondered if they truly grasped the power of this day. Was anyone ready to step forward and share their vulnerabilities as they created something beautiful? Rosie stepped back from the dessert table, confusion and excitement swirling within her. The colorful icing sprawled across the ground like a messy painting. Yet instead of panic, the air filled with laughter and camaraderie. It was in these moments of chaos that they truly began to connect, even if just for a second. "All right, everyone," she called, trying to channel the energy that pulsed through them. "Let us turn this little accident into our next masterpiece." To her surprise, the crowd erupted in cheers. Rosie felt a rush of warmth. Perhaps it was the chaos that would push people to lean into each other, to find laughter in the mess of life. That thought was interrupted when she caught a glimpse of Maggie, who was edging closer, her smile widening as she watched the crowd cheer and rally together amidst the icing spill. "Come on." Rosie waved her hand, beckoning Maggie to join her. "Let us make this fun." Maggie hesitated, but then stepped forward, her arms shaking slightly as she grabbed a spatula. Rosie felt a spark of hope. Perhaps this was the moment Maggie needed to break through and feel the joy that came from community. As Rosie continued to encourage the crowd, Maggie picked up some of the fallen icing, artfully smearing it onto a nearby plate. "Can you believe this?" Maggie giggled, her voice rising above the laughter. "I might have just discovered a new way to decorate." Rosie's heart lifted. This was the Maggie everyone missed, the spark of creativity matched with a sense of humor that made everything feel lighter. When they finished, the dessert table looked like a tornado had struck, but it also sparkled with a quirky charm that made people want to dig in. "Look, I think we just invented something amazing." Rosie beamed, her excitement infectious. The crowd rallied around as they started taking photos to share the excitement. The energy surged as they took turns to create their own unique masterpieces from the icing, showcasing their creativity and fostering a sense of community. But then, as they were engulfed in laughter and joy, Rosie realized something deeper was brewing. With each smile and each silly creation, the bond that formed was richer than she initially imagined. She glanced at Maggie, who was laughing with a group of kids, suddenly full of life and energy. It struck Rosie then that life's sweetness often came from the messy moments and how they intertwined their stories through mutual support. Just as Rosie was about to call out to Maggie, a loud thud echoed from the back of the crowd. Heads turned. A makeshift display of cookies had toppled over, sending the sweet treats rolling across the grass. Panic flared for a minute, but before Rosie could do anything, an excited voice shouted from the crowd, "Let us save them." What stemmed from that call was nothing short of magical. People raced to gather the cookies, laughter blending with shouts of "Catch that one," as they threw the cookies to each other. Yet amidst the frenzy, Rosie felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Chaos like this was exhilarating, but could also lead to disaster if they weren't careful. Would they all really work together? Or would the competition push them apart when tensions rose? She felt the weight of the moment, the expectation to guide everyone through, but then she caught sight of Maggie again. It was as if that small smile had ignited a fire in her, and Rosie believed in magic again. "Let us show the world what we can do together." Rosie shouted, her voice ready to rise above the murmurs of doubt. This is more than just a bake-off, it's about community, healing, and love. As the crowd nodded and rallied together, Rosie wondered if this was really the beginning of something special, or just a frantic battle for cookies. Would this mess bring them closer, or tear them apart? As the commotion continued, Rosie took a deep breath, feeling the intensity swell in her chest. She needed to believe in the power of this moment. What if there was something bigger at play? What revelation awaited them beyond the chaos? The excitement crackled in the air like static electricity. Rosie watched as the crowd scattered, diving towards the rolling cookies, laughter mingling with shouts filled with glee. It was a scene unlike anything she had ever witnessed. Grown men became children again, diving after cookies with wild abandon. Suddenly, the ice cream truck chimes cut through the joyous chaos, pulling at Rosie's heartstrings. The sweet memories of summer days spent chasing after the ice cream man flooded her mind. What if we used the cookies for ice cream sandwiches? She thought, a grin spreading across her face. Maggie, she called, her voice slicing through the commotion. What do you think about making ice cream sandwiches? Maggie's eyes lit up. That's brilliant. Let us do it. The two of them quickly rallied the crew, suggesting the idea of combining the fallen cookies with some ice cream. The shouts from the crowd shifted from joyous chaos to unified purpose. It felt like the air itself was charged. They were on the edge of something extraordinary. With Rosie and Maggie leading the charge, kids and adults rushed to grab ice cream from the truck, while others collected cookies from the ground. As they teamed up, a sense of camaraderie blossomed between friends and strangers alike. Rosie caught a glimpse of the beautiful chaos, hands sticky with icing, laughter filling the air, and hearts slowly weaving together through shared effort. Here, pass it over, someone shouted, and a cookie flew gracefully, landing perfectly on a plate held by a laughing little girl. Rosie could feel her heart racing not just from the excitement of the project, but from the magic of connection happening all around her. It was alive. It was hopeful. This is incredible, Rosie, Maggie said, her smile bright enough to rival the sun. Who knew chaos could lead to something so beautiful, right? It's like every drop of icing and every cookie was meant to bring us together, Rosie replied, her heart swelling with pride. As they began assembling the makeshift ice cream sandwiches, she thought about how they had all let go of their individual worries, if only for a moment. She could see the change in people's faces underneath the initial panic, and competition was a spirit yearning for friendship. Don't forget sprinkles, Rosie reminded, her enthusiasm contagious. The kids shrieked with glee, grabbing handfuls of colorful sprinkles and tossing them over the sandwiches like confetti at a parade. The air felt electric, a tapestry of laughter and shared joy weaving through the crowd. But just as the last cookie was placed atop a scoop of ice cream, Rosie noticed a figure lingering at the edge of the chaos. It was Mrs. Thompson. Always supportive yet a bit reclusive, she quietly watched from the sidelines, her arms crossed. Rosie's heart sank a little. Maybe she thinks we're all just being ridiculous, she thought. It was a nagging worry, the type that threatened to dampen the celebratory atmosphere. Should they invite her in? Would she even want to join? Then, as if catching the same wave of energy, Maggie turned and approached Mrs. Thompson. Hey, come join us. We're making ice cream sandwiches, she called, her tone warm and inviting. Rosie held her breath, body tense. Would Mrs. Thompson take the leap? The crowd seemed to retreat in anticipation, each person caught in the delicate balance between trepidation and joy. For a moment, it felt like the entire world paused. Then Mrs. Thompson slowly uncrossed her arms. The smile that crept across her face lit up the entire gathering. Rosie felt a rush of relief wash over her. This was more than just cookies and ice cream. It was an invitation for everyone to belong, including those who had felt left out in the past. But before the moment could settle, loud clapping erupted from the back of the crowd. A group of teenagers holding their phones began cheering louder, chanting Maggie and Rosie's names. Shock washed over Rosie mixed with excitement and horror. What if this attention turns sour? What if this pressure gets too much? she thought, worry creeping back in. Just as that knot began to tighten again, Rosie locked eyes with Maggie. They both glowed with a shared understanding, something unspoken. This chaos was still theirs to shape. As the crowd continued their cheers, Rosie felt the emotional weight rise again. Would this moment burst the bubble of joy, or would it empower them all to reach new heights? Nothing felt definitive. But as Rosie looked around, she remembered the magic of this connection. It wasn't about the outcome. It was about the journey together and every messy bit in between. And then, once again, a new sound rang out, this one accompanied by music distant but beautiful. But would they be able to embrace whatever it meant? The music wafted through the air, a slow, melodic tune. It was different from the usual party beats. Intrigued, Rosie turned her gaze toward the source. A small band had set up just beyond the crowd. The cheerful strumming of a guitar and the soft notes of a flute created an atmosphere that felt like twilight in a fairy tale. "Look, everyone!" Rosie shouted, her excitement breaking through the noise of chatter. "Let us dance." Without hesitation, the crowd responded, laughter erupting like fireworks. People dropped their cookie-building efforts and swayed to the music. The spontaneous rapture filled Rosie's heart, every strum and beat pulling them deeper into a shared experience. Maggie grabbed Rosie's hand, pulling her into the middle of the gathering. Grown-ups twirled with kids, boosts of joy and warmth exchanged through smiles and silly dance moves. It felt like they were expressing something profound without needing words, a silent agreement to embrace happiness together. Rosie's heart soared as she spun, the world around her a blur of colors and laughter. In moments like these, she thought, community revealed itself, like hidden treasure shining beneath the surface of everyday life. Who knew we could turn cookie chaos into this? Maggie beamed, her eyes sparkling with delight. They whipped around, caught in the rhythm of the moment, and Rosie realized how infectious joy could be, how it wrapped around everyone like a shared blanket. In the middle of the crowd, she caught sight of Mrs. Thompson. She was no longer the quiet observer. Instead, she was smiling and moving, her feet tapping softly to the beat. Rosie felt her own heart swell with hope. This was more than just ice cream and cookies. It was a celebration of connection, a chance to show that everyone had a place. Suddenly, the band shifted to a slower song, one that pulled at the heartstrings. The happy noise faded into a gentle hum, and the dancers began to partner up. Rosie felt a twinge in her chest, an awareness of how beautifully fragile these moments could be. This could easily slip away like sugar melting on a warm day. Feeling nervous yet bold, she stepped closer to Maggie. "Let us invite Mrs. Thompson to dance," she whispered, her pulse quickening in anticipation. Maggie nodded, her expression matching Rosie's determination. They approached Mrs. Thompson, who stood to the side, cautiously admiring the warm dance floor. "Would you like to join us?" Rosie asked, her voice soft as she extended a hand. For a moment, Mrs. Thompson hesitated. Rosie held her breath, waiting for either rejection or acceptance. And then the light in Mrs. Thompson's eyes flickered again. With a shy smile, she placed her hand in Rosie's, and it was like turning a key in a lock. Everything seemed to click into place. The three of them swayed gently, and as the music filled their small circle, Rosie felt that knot of worry untangle. Mrs. Thompson's laughter rang out lightly, and it struck Rosie how much weight could be lifted in a single moment of connection. Nearby, the crowd swelled, their shared joy palpable, and Rosie's heart warmed at the sight. Watching her neighbors embrace each other and the music, she realized their gathering had morphed into something deeper than cookies and ice cream. It was a testament to the beauty of vulnerability, revealing how fear and hesitation could be laid bare when met with open hearts. But then, as applause sprang up for the band and the crowd began to cheer again, the sweet moment shifted gears. The cheerful sound transformed into a question: what would follow this magical evening? As they continued to dance, Rosie looked around, a sense of hope blooming within her. Yet, a whisper of concern still lingered. Would this connection endure beyond the setting sun? Or would it dissolve as the night wore on? The music slowed, and with it, Rosie felt the weight of impending goodbyes. What came next? Would this bond hold strong? Or would they each return to their worlds, leaving behind only echoes of tonight's magic? Rosie's heart thudded in her chest as the last notes of the song echoed into the night. She felt Mrs. Thompson's hand warm in hers, a symbol of the unexpected friendship blooming amidst the swirl of activity. As they swayed together, Rosie caught glimpses of the people around her, silhouetted against the soft glow of lights. Each face, animated with laughter and joy, told a story of connection sparked by the same enchantment that enveloped Rosie. Tension hung in the air like the final strains of the band's last song. She stole a look at Maggie, whose eyes were sparkling with excitement, yet there was a hint of worry behind her smile. Rosie knew that the moment of magic had to end eventually, and uncertainty spiraled within her. Would they remember this feeling when the sun rose again, or would it fade with the night? The dancers began to drift away, couples reluctantly parting. Rosie sensed the shift, the bittersweet air thick with anticipation and fatigue. It was perhaps too soon for goodbyes. As the music faded, she tightened her grip on Mrs. Thompson's hand, refusing to let go just yet. "Can we?" Rosie faltered, her voice barely rising above the last whispers of the melody. "Can we share some cookies? Just a few more minutes together." Mrs. Thompson nodded, her expression softening further. "I would love that," she replied, the timbre of her voice surprising Rosie with its warmth. The three of them walked toward the dessert table, laughter bubbling before they even reached the plate of cookies. "Here's one for you and one for me," Rosie declared, handing Mrs. Thompson a cookie. The excitement surged through her again, a reminder of how simple gestures could create bonds stronger than any fancy event. They shared stories over bites that melted on their tongues, accompanied by the remnants of laughter still echoing from the dance floor. With every nibble, Rosie glanced at Maggie, who caught her eye and raised an eyebrow, as if asking, "Will this be enough?" They needed to find a way to carry this moment forward. Still, Rosie felt the ticking clock of endings. "Why don't we plan something?" Maggie chimed in suddenly, her voice bursting with urgency. "A gathering, an arts and crafts day or a movie night. We can keep this connection alive." The thought thrilled Rosie, sending butterflies fluttering in her stomach. Mrs. Thompson's eyes glistened with something akin to hope. They surveyed the crowd, and Rosie sensed every shared glance, every cheerful wave, could become the seed of future friendships. "Yes," Mrs. Thompson exclaimed, her enthusiasm igniting. "We could even have a potluck. Invite everyone to contribute their favorite dishes, and we can make it a real community thing." The idea felt electric, wrapping around them like vines of possibility. Rosie's heart swelled. Like an ongoing celebration, she cheered. But just as excitement pulsed in the air, a sudden thought broke through Rosie's joy. "What if they don't want to?" she asked, hesitating. "What if it feels different once we're not dancing under the stars?" Maggie shrugged, a determined smile lighting her face. "Sure, some might not. But we can invite them and we can create new traditions." Rosie's heart raced at the prospect. They could meet regularly, build on this moment, keep the warmth alive. Hopping slightly on her feet, she turned to Mrs. Thompson. "Are you in?" The bearded woman's face transformed, breaking into a smile that sent waves of relief through Rosie. "I've been waiting for this kind of invitation for years." As laughter bubbled up again, Rosie felt the latent possibility of their plans filling the sky like fireflies. But then, from a distance, Rosie noticed a familiar face moving away quietly, its expression shadowed under the fading light. It was Mr. Collins. Why was he leaving so soon? "Wait!" she called out, her voice laced with urgency. The question hung in the air: might the magic of today's gathering beckon everyone to stay, or would they scatter back into the night? The moment felt poised on the edge of something significant, and the warmth around Rosie's heart flickered with both hope and worry as she turned back to her friends. Would they step forward together to create something lasting, or would a shadow settle easily over them too? The moment lingered in the air like the fading notes of the last song. Rosie's heart raced as she watched Mr. Collins move away, a frown etched across his face, a reminder that while their little community had begun to find itself, some hearts still felt heavy. "Maggie, Mrs. Thompson," Rosie called out, urgency spilling from her lips. "Let us invite him back." The two women exchanged looks and nodded, falling in sync with Rosie's bubbling energy. "This moment has to mean something for everyone, right?" Maggie said, determination set in her gaze. "Yes. Everyone should feel included in this community we're building," Rosie added, her voice steady. Together, they wove through the crowd, past clustered groups still celebrating and savoring their ice cream sandwiches, their laughter offering a sweet melody in the night. As they approached Mr. Collins, his shoulders slumped like he carried a heavy weight. Rosie felt the warmth from the gathering drift around them, a thin shield against the isolation she sensed enveloping him. "Mr. Collins," she called out, her voice brightening. He turned, surprise flickering across his features. "Oh, hello," he said, his voice quiet. "Where are you going?" Rosie asked, concern etching her brow. "We want you to join us. We're all celebrating tonight." "I appreciate it, really," he replied, glancing away as if the busy festivities were too vibrant to bear. "But I don't quite fit in." Maggie stepped forward, her heart open like a book. "You do belong, Mr. Collins. We're all a little messy right now. Join us for cookies and more. We need people like you to help us create something lasting." His eyes softened, the tension tugging at his face easing just a hint. "I don't know if I can do that," he began, but Rosie wouldn't accept it. "Yes, you can. We all had doubts. But look how much we've come together," Rosie urged, her voice full of encouragement. "We turned a disaster into beautiful ice cream sandwiches. Let us keep this momentum going and turn this into a pop-up potluck. Join us." Mr. Collins looked up, surprise flickering in his eyes. The way Rosie spoke, the eagerness in her voice, it was like she was offering him a lifeline. "Maybe I just don't want to embarrass myself," he finally admitted, a shadow flitting across his face. "Everyone is welcome. It's not about perfection. It's about the richness of connections. We want you there," Rosie implored, her heart racing for him. "We want everyone." The crowd began to draw back in whispers, sensing the energy shift as everyone looked toward Mr. Collins. Rosie could see him evaluating the situation, the moment stretching far longer than she'd expected. And then something remarkable happened. His expression shifted, hope ignited in his eyes, and he took a deep breath. "Okay," he said slowly. "I'll stay. Just for a bit." Cheers erupted around them, echoing their shared relief and joy. It felt wonderful, a collective sigh of belonging that embraced them all. As Mr. Collins walked back with them, Rosie felt the weight of the night lift, transformed from uncertainty to connection. Back at the dessert table, Mrs. Thompson clapped her hands. "Let us continue this celebration. Who's ready for a potluck?" she called out, energy sparking back to life like fireworks igniting the night sky. A chorus of "me" echoed through the crowd as Rosie looked around, her heart swelling with pride and gratitude. Perhaps tonight was a turning point, a pledge to gather resources for the troubled times ahead, promising to stand together. With excitement bubbling in every corner, mingling conversations blossomed. Maggie started jotting down ideas, while Mrs. Thompson approached a few others, and even Mr. Collins began sharing plans for his favorite dish. It was a scene bursting with energy. Plates filled with food made with love, laughter fermenting promises of closeness, and words exchanged like confetti falling from the sky. Just as Rosie turned away, a tug at her apron caught her attention. It was Claire, sparkling with enthusiasm. "Do you think we could have a theme for our potluck? Maybe community, cuisine?" "Absolutely," Rosie exclaimed, her heart thudding with joy. "Everyone can bring something that tells their story. It will be a feast of connection." The night swirled on, deeper connections forged through laughter, hugs, and understanding. Rosie felt like she was watching a magical tapestry being woven, each life thread contributing to the vibrant whole. As the laughter grew louder around them, Rosie held onto this moment, knowing it was just the beginning. This was how a community became a family, not through perfection, but through sharing every messy moment along the way. And even when the last cookie crumbled into bits or dessert plates were wiped clean, Rosie realized that through all the change, the transformation had just started. Life would throw challenges their way, but together, they were a force of joy, resilience, and love, a shining beacon in their small Midwestern town. As the clock ticked toward midnight, a soft laugh escaped Rosie's lips. They were more than just a bake-off or a temporary celebration. They were a family, imperfect, yet whole, and ready to weather whatever came next together. As everyone embraced this promise, her thoughts sparkled anew with anticipation. Would they harness this newfound strength? Could they rise to every occasion, every challenge? The uncertainty faded, replaced by the incredible strength of believing in one another. And in that instant, Rosie knew. Whatever lay beyond this night was nothing they couldn't face as a community. This was their time. She could feel it in her heart like the sweet warmth of a freshly baked cookie. Now that you've experienced this journey of transformation, it's your turn to be part of something bigger. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. And yes, it makes a real difference to us. Comment your reactions and feelings about the ending. We want to hear from you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait not even one more second to share. Let's strengthen this bond together.